Let's start talking about security. There's been a lot of talk that maybe it's just too much at the moment now for the needs. What do you say to that?
Yes, I was in the audience when Martin Broughton, the chairman of BA, said at the AOA conference back in London at the beginning of the week that he felt that some security checks were out of date and not required and redundant. It's very hard, realistically, because all the airports within the UK, and I include the Crown dependencies as that, we all have the same requirements with regards to security. The difficulty is, whilst everybody wants security, no one actually likes going through the processes, and the airports can't actually tell the public what are the minimum ratios and requirements that we have to achieve.
I think it's the fact that different places have different standards, because, I mean, just different airports around the UK don't all want you to take their shoes off, do they, these days?
Well, to a certain side, I would say the fact that each airport director has to make the basic minimums the same, and that is absolutely true and factual, is how they achieve that given the size of their operation and looking at customer service. But to a certain extent, one could say the differences between the airports also adds to security, because how will the good guys be sure that if this happens at one place that this will happen to another? But at Ronaldsway we actually do ask all passengers to take their shoes off. Now I can say the requirement to take off or check shoes is not 100%, but it's a very high proportionate rate of passengers that we have to have as a minimum baseline check. And so given our line of security, our one line of security that we have here, bearing in mind the size of this airport compared to your internationals, your Heathrow, Birmingham, Manchester, etc., then it's much quicker for us to ask everybody to remove their shoes, and we have proven so. We did trial that before we did that, and we have such a high level of frequent flyers.
I've been through the airport a few times recently, and there's been quite big backlogs because of presumably everyone being thoroughly searched as they are now.
We haven't changed with regards to shoes since the beginning of 2006. Now, the requirements have changed, and since April of this year, the UK has been directed by Europe to follow the EU rules and regulations. And to a certain extent, actually, some of our checks have actually been slightly lessened, but it's not in areas that the member of the public would be able to see.
You can probably understand people's frustration, though, that it seems that the airport here is being more zealous than others.
I wouldn't agree. It's my responsibility for airport security. It's on my shoulders, and I'm very sure and I'm very keen to be confident about the fact of the level of security that we must offer. Now, at other airports, the larger airports, if they've got to have the same minimum security checks, the same baseline checks, let's take the shoes, but they have many lines of security within which they have to accomplish the same thing. Here we just have one line of security, and it's our aim to get passengers through the archway metal detector with their belongings through the X-ray machine as fast as possible.
Well, you refer to a gentleman, of course, who brought this whole thing up again recently. He says it's just pointless now.
I don't think that anybody would say that it's pointless. There's far too many examples whereby within aviation that terrorism is such a threat. And one cannot forget that actually inbound to flights for the UK, the threat is severe. And that does mean an attack is highly likely. And recently, the national threat has gone up across the country, across the UK, and our aviation threats have remained the same.
I presume you test the system yourself to make sure that it is vigorous enough to catch anybody that's trying to take anything on board they shouldn't be?
Yes, Isle of Man government has always run the airport with regards to following best practice, and we actually invite in the UK Department for Transport, who are responsible for aviation security, to come and inspect, audit, advise us as exactly the same as any other UK airport, and they come at least 3 times a year, and we've just recently had an audit. So I'm very confident that what we do is to the right levels. Like I said though, passengers want security, they just don't like the processes. And I go through it like a passenger, like anybody else, and I have no means of sort of sidelining or beating any of those checks. So I do believe we offer a safe passage through the airport.
And where is the level of security at the moment? What level?
For inbound flights to the UK, it is actually severe. For outbound flights, it's one less than that, which is substantial.
And is that likely to change, do you think, in the near future?
No, I don't think it is at the moment. I think at the moment, given the fact that the national threat levels across the UK have risen too severe, I think at the moment, which therefore means that it's not only within aviation that there's perceived to be a threat, I think they're likely to stay that way for a while. Now, going back to Martin Broughton, who was making some comments about it, you know, it could be that that many airlines might look to pick up on this and request for the UK within the EU rules and regulations to look at that. But I think that would take a long time before any changes were made.
Well, moving on, I mean, airport numbers are up, albeit minutely, but at the same time, you now have an increase in tax. Is that going to cause problems, do you think, to people travelling to and from the island?
Well, air passenger duty is the UK's unilateral tax, of which the Isle of Man has adopted the same scheme. And in general terms, what that means is it's a customs and excise tax. It's collected by the airlines from passengers through their tickets, but paid to the government. So it's nothing to do with the airports at all. Now, this came in, roughly speaking, around about 1994. And as a result of the old Labour government in the UK, it was always planned for an increase from the 1st of November 2010. So that means today passengers are paying £11 each way, and from Monday it'll be £12 each way for flights to the UK and from Ireland. But for long-haul intercontinental flights, there's some very large increases about to occur.
My point is it going to affect people's sort of ability to travel? Because it's just another increased cost, isn't it, on people using the airport?
I think at the moment people aren't so aware of how much they're paying, and I think for short haul flights like ours, I don't think we'll have any changes, and I am pleased that our passenger numbers are around about the same as last year. There are many airports, and regional airports in particular, and airports that have had perhaps some low cost airlines who've pulled out some of their services, who are really suffering in the UK at the moment. So I'm quite pleased that we're managing to hold our own at the moment. But I certainly think for a family of 4 going to Florida next year and things like that, then the significant change of tax will make them think again.
Well, I mean, there's the new news coming out about Blackpool, for instance. Another airline has pulled out, leaving it vulnerable just to one operator, in fact being Manx 2, Isle of Man to Blackpool. Do you see threats still that other routes may be affected in the future here to the Isle of Man?
Well, I'm pleased that Manx2.com are continuing their flights to Blackpool, and what's happened at Blackpool is that they served a notice to Jet2.com, as I understand it, in that they'll be perhaps looking to stop their flights. They won't be able to handle them in the future, I think, from the end of the year. So for Blackpool, that's really poor news for them that they're in such a position. But Blackpool aren't alone. You know, Ryanair are looking to pull out of Bournemouth, I believe, for the winter, and let's hope that they come back. So I think across the UK at the moment, regional airports are really, really struggling.
Well, the ongoing controversy about open skies keeps going on. Again, you've got airlines saying they've reduced their services here because now EasyJet are coming into the Isle of Man. Any comment on that? Do you still think it's the right way to go forward?
Well, going back to Martin Broughton, one of the things he did say on Monday was, actually I think it was Tuesday, one of the things he did say on Tuesday was one of the single biggest successes in aviation in the last couple of years is open skies. And I truly believe it's absolutely the right way, the right strategy, the right policy that the Isle of Man government has. And to be fair, our airlines do believe it is the right way to go. We do have one operator, Manx2.com, who have an alternative view. But in principle, I think Martin Broughton was right.
And the ongoing Aer Arann situation, where are we at the moment now with that?
Well, I believe that they're in court today, and so we hope to have some further news on that. I hope they come through it. I'm expecting them to come through it. A stronger, resilient company. We've had payments through Air Examinership, so I'm hoping that they come through, and therefore we can continue as we have been throughout with business as usual on our flights to Dublin and London City.